Different people react differently to a crisis situation. There are people who get really stressed when there is a crisis. And then, in that state of stress, they try to resolve the crisis. Then there are people who are extremely calm when there is a crisis. And they go about solving the crisis from that state of calm. There's another set of people that get really stressed when they're in a crisis, and then their stress increases over time, and they are unable to resolve the crisis or think of a resolution. Then there are people that get really stressed when there's a crisis, and their stress reduces over time. And finally, they become calm and they're able to resolve the crisis. I'm sure that you fall under one of these categories at one point of your life or another. I mean, I can resonate with all four. I can see that I've reacted to stress in various ways. I've reacted to crisis in various ways. Also, the area in which the crisis happens also matters. There are people who are extremely calm when there's a crisis in one particular area, and the same person gets really stressed when the crisis is in another area of their life. So, my question is, how do you explain this? How do you explain the difference in response or reaction to a crisis? In my opinion, there's only one explanation. The crisis or the external circumstance, the thing that's happening on the outside, cannot create an internal experience, the feelings of stress or calm. There is no relationship between them. Even though it might look as if there's a direct relationship, even though it might look as if the crisis is creating your stress, you really cannot explain how the stress increases or decreases over time, or how someone else is not feeling stressed in that same crisis. Because if the crisis is the same for two people, the reaction should also be the same, right? But that is not the case. It's never the case. In fact, to the same crisis, the same person responds differently in different periods of their life. You can have a really stressful reaction to a crisis situation on day one, go to bed, and wake up the next day with a completely different mindset. You're completely calm, but the crisis is still there. It still exists. And in my opinion, the only thing that explains this is that our circumstance, the crisis, and our experience, our internal experience, are not directly related. But we are living in a paradigm that I would like to call the outside in paradigm. In the outside in paradigm, we believe that whatever is happening on the outside, the circumstance, the problem, the situation, creates an internal experience. And what if that's not how it works? What if we are actually living in an inside out world? Our experience is being created from the inside out. And when you look at the circumstance and experience model from this perspective, it completely makes sense. Because your internal experience is extremely fluid. Sometimes you feel stressed, sometimes you feel more stressed, sometimes you're feeling calm, sometimes you're feeling really calm, sometimes you're at peace, sometimes you're anxious. It's changing on a moment to moment basis. But the circumstance, the crisis, the problem, the trauma, whatever is happening on the outside has not changed. It's not very fluid. And the missing link between these two is our thoughts, is our thinking. It is our thinking at any given moment that is creating our experience. It is not the crisis that's creating our experience. It is our thinking that's creating our experience. When we are in the outside in world, we are living like cameras. We are pointed towards the outside world and we are taking in whatever is coming inside. And whatever is coming inside, it's making us feel, whatever is coming from the outside, it's making us feel inside. But if that were the case, and there were two people looking at the same situation, two people, two cameras pointed towards the same thing, what they are recording should match. What they are experiencing should match. But that never happens. Two people looking at the same situation in the same crisis are having a completely different experience. That's because we are not cameras. We are not creating our experience from the outside in. We are artists holding a paintbrush of thought in our hand, in our minds, and we are painting our reality on a moment to moment basis. We are painting our feeling from the inside out. And you might be thinking, what's the use of understanding this? What's the use of seeing where our experience comes from? Well, the implications of seeing where your experience comes from, seeing that you are the creator of your experience from the inside out is wonderful. For example, when you're living in the outside in paradigm, the outside world is responsible for what you're feeling. If you're feeling stressed, it is the outside world that's creating the stress. And unless the outside world changes, you're not going to feel better. And you will feel the need to change the outside world, to go ahead and do things in that stressed state to make yourself feel less stressed. And there is no control. It is like you're sitting at the back of a car being driven by a drunk driver. There's absolutely no way of knowing what's going to happen, and you're absolutely scared. It's it's crazy, right? I mean, if you really think about it, if you're sitting at the back of a drunk driver who's driving a car and you have no control over what's happening, it's very difficult to have peace of mind, to have happiness, because you're so stressed and you're full of fear. But when you see that your experience is coming from the inside out, that the external circumstance is not actually creating your stress, it is your thinking in that moment that's creating your stress. It is like sitting in a roller coaster. And sometimes it's a really scary roller coaster. It has so many drops, it is very huge, it has loops, and it's very scary. But in the end, you know that you're safe. It's a roller coaster, so you have your belts. You know you're not going to fly off the roller coaster. And the most important part, you know that the roller coaster will end. The ride will end at a particular time. It might take a few seconds, a few minutes, it does not matter. But the fact that you're going to be safe at the end of this experience actually allows you to experience that fear, experience that stress without stressing about it, without being uncomfortable about the discomfort. And I cannot tell you how wonderful that is to get that sort of a freedom of not depending on an external source to make you feel better. To know that because it's just your thinking that's creating your experience, you can just experience it. Because our thoughts are a transient energy. How many thoughts are you holding from 5 days back? I'm guessing not a lot. Because thoughts have that transient nature. They, by definition, are fluid. So, once a thought enters your head and gives you those feelings of stress, the moment you realize that it's actually your thought that's creating the stress, you can let go and just wait for the thoughts to pass. You don't have to do anything about the feeling. You don't have to change anything. You just have to realize that is our true nature, that our mind sometimes creates negative thoughts, thoughts that are not really helpful. And, we cannot really control what thoughts enter our head, but we can control how much attention we give it. And the moment you see your feelings being created from thought, you're free of the feeling. You can feel the feeling and not be affected by it. And just like how when there's a song stuck in your head and you're trying to remove that song with all your might and you're not able to, and after a few minutes or a few hours or a few days, you realize that, hey, that song is no longer stuck in your head. That's what I'm talking about. The moment you are okay with whatever thoughts running in your head, with whatever you're feeling, and take it as a signal from your body that, hey, there is some random, unhelpful thought that's happening. All you need to do is just drop it. Just stop paying attention to anything that's going in your head. And just like how a song that's stuck in your head just floats away without you even trying, even this thought floats away. And a fresh thought comes into your head. And your feelings change. And the moment your feelings change, the moment you're no longer stressed, the moment you're no longer contracted by a thought, you've let it go, and you get a fresh thought, and you're calm again, guess what happens to the crisis? You get better ideas to solve the crisis. You are in a much better state of mind to actually work on the crisis. Instead of being in a stressed state of mind where not a lot of good thinking is happening, you're not able to come up with ideas, you're actually calm and composed. And if you're not, that's a sign that you're not supposed to be thinking about the crisis. You're not supposed to be thinking about the solution now. You're just supposed to get quiet, let the thoughts float away, and let a fresh thought come in. And once you're calm, you solve your crisis. What a wonderful technology. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope to see you soon. Take care.